Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of the Security Repo Podcast. Always a pleasure to bring you the latest and greatest news and information from the wider security world. Trying to spread that security message out there. And thanks for all your help with that, liking, subscribing, getting this out to your friends, and helping other people learn these lessons that the guests bring us. And speaking of guests, this week we got Jake Hildreth. He's a dedicated husband, father, and seasoned IT professional with nearly 25 years of experience. He's a principal security consultant at Semperis, where Jake helps organizations fortify their digital defenses against Active Directory incursions, which is the main reason we're talking today. His open source tools like Locksmith, BlueTuxedo, and PowerPUG are designed to lighten the load for overworked AD admins by making security more accessible and manageable. Welcome to the show, Jake.
Hey, thanks for having me, Dwayne.
So we met back at Blue Team Con, where you were giving a really interesting talk. We'll get into that later. But how was your Blue Team Con?
Blue Team Con was great, man. Like it's I pivoted into security 4 years ago, and Blue Team Con was my first con since pivoting into security. Like previous employer Trimark, I started on a Monday. Blue Team Con was the Saturday before, and I went to Blue Team Con to meet my soon-to-be boss at that time. So yeah, I've been to everyone since then. You know, it's I love the vibe at Blue Team Con. There's a little less posturing and you don't have that 0 day, it's not cool, right? And it just covers a lot of things. So yeah, had a really good experience. Met you on our shared love of Dickel Rye.
Yes.
Shockingly, yeah, it was great.
Yeah,
So,
this is not a paid promotion whatsoever for Dickel, but wow, that's a good rye. That is a really good rye.
Yeah, it's
but
great.
I have the same feeling about Blue Team Con. There's something special about it. How do we actually defend this stuff? How do we build better so we don't have to worry about all of that stuff? Which I love. I love that mentality, and that's kind of why I love the Blue Team and AppSec in general.
Yeah, it's my whole thing too. Is I've always been a defender at heart. Like I just want people to be safe and secure and have the privacy they want and things. And like, yes, it's cool to break stuff, right? Don't get me wrong. I've
Absolutely
done some fun, cool stuff of breaking stuff and figuring out how to make things work. But usually it's always been in that service of getting a job done, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do I make this talk to this when they're not intended to talk to each other, and then breaking it that way. So yeah.
Absolutely. That's one of the interesting differences between every other community I've belonged to with open source, Drupal, PHP. I just did Django Con right after Blue Team Con. I went and did Django Con, which is like the people that build and write Django in that community. Awesome community. But those communities, the DevOps community, the DevOps Days communities, they're all focused on building stuff, and they all want to have conversations of like, I built this tool. Look how cool it is. You can use it. Please use it. How to build QR codes from base libraries and Python and things like that. Just like really cool stuff. And then I got on stage as a security person. It's like, yeah, everything's terrible. Everything's on fire. And they're like, oh no, we're building for the future. And I'm like, I love the optimism. And I kind of miss that. And I don't hear that a lot at conferences. Blue Team Con is one of the exceptions. It's one where,
Absolutely.
hey, we're laying the groundwork for what this next part of the security journey looks like. And yeah, you're over there breaking stuff. It's good to have pen testers. It's great to have that adversarial mindset and know how it works and tear things apart and find the flaws. But at the end of the day, we're trying to make the thing run. And again, that goes back to my love of AppSec and OWASP and all things operational, which actually leads us to the topic at hand, Active Directory. Something that is in so many organizations that runs so much of our identity, at least for humans and for service workers and for everything else they stuff in there. But before we get into all the problems with Active Directory, how did you get into Active Directory? How did that become your field of study or in focus?
So I think it was it 2001, 2002, somewhere around there. I started taking an A+ class, and somebody mentioned, this Active Directory thing. You're right, 2000 Active Directory came out, and I was loosely aware of things like domains, but not super aware. I didn't need to be, right? I was in my early 20s. And I left this help desk job, or I was in a help desk job at the same time. I left the help desk job while following along on this A+ thing. and went into a security related consultancy at the time. We were building custom firewalls on IP tables, and we were selling AV basically, checkpoint firewalls too. Are those even still around? But yeah, so immediately went from help desk into this consultancy working with small and medium businesses, and like certain businesses had Active Directory, and we we're like, all right, we need to learn a little bit about this. I mean, this is still like Server 2000 days, right? And so after playing around for a little while and kind of learning things, I was like, I need to learn this at home. And I stood up a Server 2000 Active Directory forest in my apartment, and then had my roommates join that Active Directory domain. And then only like a week later, they're like, wait, does this mean you have control of my computer? And I'm like, more or less. Yes. So went from there into, I worked actually for the city of Bowling Green, Ohio for 16 years. And in that, right, I had to wear all the hats, right? You could 6 baseball caps, right? On top of each other, doing all of the things, because we had 300 people and 3 IT guys, for lack of a better term. And so you're interfacing with it every day. And then over time, I started to take a bigger role in the company, and realized probably around 2012 is when I started to really take a bigger role in managing Active Directory. And I realized like all the stuff from when that Active Directory was built in the year 2000, those best practices are not the best practices of 2012. And just continued to dig and dig and dig and dig and dig until I just know more than I should about it, I think. But yeah,
I think you just hit on one of like the more fascinating parts of Active Directory, because the base idea of it is pretty straightforward. Like it's an implementation of LDAP. Like we need to know who the users are. We need to know what the machines are. We need to connect those things in an insane way. But you just said like it changed dramatically over time, and we're still watching the evolution. And now we're in a cloud world where there was a thing called Azure Active Directory, but that's now Intra ID, right?
Right. Yeah. 2023. That bombshell got dropped. It's very funny. So before joining Semperis, I worked at a company called Trimark, and at Trimark we had both a Entra assessment and a AD assessment. I led the AD assessment team, but we pushed back hard on ever changing our branding over to Entra. It was like, we are not changing our branding until Microsoft changes their branding on everything. And you could still find Azure AD stuff branded all over the place.
But it begs the question, like if the future is Intra, and it's even been not the future, the last few years is like we're moving everything cloud. Why isn't everyone in cloud yet? Why is we still have all these on-prem, all these like why are we stuck in this fractured world of a billion different ways to implement AD?
It's wild. How could I say this? Sometimes you got to cut the backwards compatibility. That's kind of the way that I look at it. Is there needs to be a cutoff point at some point where we're like, hey, we're not going to support your NT4 domain anymore. That being said, I understand. I worked in operations for a long time. It's hard to turn off a lot of these things, legacy applications, things like industrial control systems and operational technology, right? They are built to last for 20 years. And that means they were built in 2010 or 2005 and are just now getting repaired or replaced. And therefore, it's just a whole process. One thing that I would really like to see, and I was chatting with a friend this morning, and he said, what would be really cool? Just one checkbox, one button when you're standing up that first Active Directory domain that says, do you need to support old... am I allowed to swear?
Yeah, go on. Yeah, sure.
I was going to say, do you need to support old shit? Yes or no? And if the answer is no, it turns off all that crap that you don't need. That just Yeah. I think I went far afield of where we were going, but
No, that it totally answers the question. Actually,
yeah,
that's the reality on the ground, and that's what I was digging at.
yeah.
But what you've seen pretty much everything you can see in your career as what can go wrong with Active Directory.
You'd be shocked. I thought I saw everything too until I just every engagement shows some new fresh hell. I mean, honestly.
So let's dig into that a little bit. So let's get some more stories out of you. Like, what are some of the crazier things you have seen, and what's the underlying reason we're getting it wrong?
Okay, we'll do two stories. Number one, very large industry, very well known, very locked down. Until I see that there was this one little group that had been granted what's called all extended rights. So that includes things like, man, blanking right now, but setting service principal names and things like that. Like you can set those what are controlled access rights. And I see this group, like it has full control of all extended rights at the domain root, which means this not only controls or bleeds down to all of the users and computers in the environment, but this group has control over the domain itself, right? The domain is a separate object and it can be controlled just like a user or computer can be controlled. And that's weird. Why would that be there? And the name of the group looked like it was something that made sense, but contained within there was a distribution group or something that said like distribution groups. Okay, interesting. And contained within that group was domain users. So what this meant, every one thing that's in all extended rights is DC sync, the two rights that are required to make a full fidelity copy of Active Directory. It allows you to operate as a domain controller and synchronize your domain. So all domain users had that right. And as soon as we saw that, that is an immediate call like, hey, this is bad. And in conversation with the customer, I asked about this weird nesting structure and why is this group with the word distribution lists in it? Oh, we wanted to grant the rights to modify distribution lists to all domain users. And so they did the thing that it takes to make it work. And it worked. But in that, also granted all these excessive rights to all users in the environment. It was wild.
That if everybody's an admin, then nobody's an admin. I mean, it's a brilliant backup strategy. If everybody has their own copy of Active Directory, like, yeah, you could just always restore from someone else. It's basically Git. You're just turning Active Directory into Git.
That's funny that you bring that up. We were actually talking about, I've got a little private group for Locksmith folks, the development team, the core team. And we were chatting about like, how would we be able to store every change to AD as a Git commit? Like, what would that take? It would be wild. I don't think it could actually happen, but
never say never. I think
That's
crazier ideas have been executed and put in production.
That's right. And then the other one that comes across is the 9 criticals issue or environment that I came across that like, in Active Directory, there's something called user rights that allow that grant specific rights to the user, things like adding a workstation to a domain or being able to log on locally, right? These are not access controls. These are not, that sort of thing, but they are an actual right granted to a principal. And for whatever reason, again, probably a make it work, this company had granted, I think, 7 different user rights that are dangerous to not domain users, but the everyone group. So depending on how you're configured, that may be including anonymous users. They had granted these 7 dangerous rights on their domain controllers. So you plug into their office, right? And I'm sure their ports were not locked down properly. They'd not turned off by default. You sit down, you plug your network cable in, and you can just go ahead and log into a DC with no username. Yeah, it was wild.
Wow, just there's no user to, again, if everybody's an admin, nobody's an admin, but if nobody's an admin, then everybody's an admin.
Exactly.
Wow,
Exactly.
that's nuts. We could talk war stories all day and get into like
Absolutely.
a lot here, and I definitely want to bring you back because we way more than we could talk about in one show, but we are trying to keep this within a time limit.
Sure. Let's do that.
So I did want to ask you if there's any big advice you have. Like, what's the one thing, if Active Directory admins or security teams are listening, what's the one thing you think they could do different? What's the one thing you think they could tackle to improve their lives?
Really document and identify what your tier 0 assets are. And I know that term gets thrown around. What is tier 0, right? The things that control your directory. So that's your domain controllers, that's your ADCS servers, and then every privileged access to that. If you can identify those and really strictly enforce that, we have separate accounts that access this, and no one can control those accounts. Like, if you can get to there, you are better than 98% of other environments in the world, and you are going to create such havoc for any base level attacker, right? You're not gonna stop an APT. This is not, but script kiddies and lower level attackers, like, they just can't deal with that stuff. So yeah. And then once you get that done, then you start building out the other tiers, tier 1, tier 2, etc. So, but yeah,
it's that 80-20 rule. Like, if you can just keep out just the script kiddies, then you're already doing good. Like, the low hanging fruit gets hit. That's just what it is. Thank you so much for being here. It is time to play the 4 questions we ask our guests to get to know you a little bit better and to spread some more news out there. Actually, one of my favorite questions, become one of my favorite questions because I have learned so much from this. What is your all-time favorite security command line tool?
grep. I mean, grep. Like, it's not. I mean, and I'm a PowerShell guy, so, like, select string is the equivalent, or where object, I guess. I mean, running PWSH from my Windows 5.1 to get into PowerShell 7, does that count? Grep, and then tying it to regex, right? Like, it's regex is. I'm not great at it.
Nobody is.
Nobody is. Oh, you know who is? ChatGPT. Shockingly good.
Yeah. That makes sense because you can't tell if it's wrong.
Love it.
All right. You've had a number of jobs over your life. What's the best interview question you think you've ever been asked?
I absolutely love when I get the, do you have any questions for us? Like, that is the question to me that then I can turn it around on them and just slam them with questions, because I always have questions. So that's where I love to go. That being said, the tell me about yourself. As much as it seems open-ended, I love that question just because, it lets me be a little, get my personality across a little bit. And I think that's important, really important to get that across. So the higher I get in these technical roles, the more I realize the less technical skills are required. It's wild.
All right. Best advice, worst advice. Let's go with best advice, best security advice you are hearing out there.
Separate password for everything, right? Like, maybe not even a password manager, just a separate password for anything. Do you know how much that eliminates? It's wild. Credential stuffing attacks are just gone. And when you're having to create a new password for everything, you're also probably, I would hope, creating a slightly stronger password every time. I'm hoping.
Worst advice you're hearing out there in the world.
From vendor documentation, just throw it in domain admin. That's it. I mean, how often do we see that? And it goes back to that. It makes it work. I guess that's not really security advice, is it? That's more security anti-advice.
Well, no, I mean that's the worst advice. That's the whole
It's
point.
wild.
That's the whole
It's
point of that
wild.
question.
It's wild.
All right. Well, we are here at the end of time for today, but we always like to give our guests the final say. Is there anything else you want to tell us? Any wisdom? Anything you want to plug?
Come find me at jakehildreth.com. I'm not sure if the little logo here will come across in your recording, but jakehildreth.com. I've got, tools, blog where I talk about AD stuff and PowerShell development stuff. If you have anything AD or Entra related questions, feel free to reach out. I work for Semperis. That's our bread and butter is Microsoft Identity. And then if you're interested in learning the basics of PKI and how that interacts with powerlifting, if you're interested in learning about interesting ways to chain Active Directory certificate services attacks to go from low and medium attacks to critical attacks, come see me speak at the Hybrid Identity Protection Conference in Charleston, South Carolina, first or second week of October. hipconf.com.
Right on.
That's all I got.
All right. Well, we'll make sure those links get down in the show notes. Thanks, everybody, for listening. And again, thanks for those likes and subscribes and sharing this with your friends. And thanks for being here, Jake.
Hey, thanks, man.